guys, it's Sam, and this is my spoiler-free review of Foundryside by Robert Jackson Bennett. This is the first book in the Founder series, which is an adult fantasy series that I believe is going to be a trilogy. This follows Sanchia, and she is a thief in this world, and she has a special ability in which she can sense anything that she touches. She can sense all of its history, where it's been, you know, footholds in a wall where there might be like a crack in the wall, anything like that that she touches. And she can also hear shrivings, which is the magic used in this world. So this world has magic that is inscribed onto objects, and that magic, it's a cool system. It convinces these objects that they may be something that they're not, or it convinces them to do something that's not in their power to do, or it convinces an object that it's flying at a certain rate when it's not. There's a lot of things that it can kind of do, and she can at least sense a little bit of when those are around and kind of hear them at like a lower level. At the beginning of the story, she is hired by an unknown person to track down this box that's being held at the waterfront. So she has to break in there and discover what's in this box, and she's not supposed to discover what's in this box, and everything kind of goes from there. So first off, I'm going to talk about the world building. This takes place in a world that, like I already mentioned with the magic system, it has a certain magic system, but in this world, everything is run by these merchant houses, and there are 4 of them, and they all control all of the money and the power and that particular kind of magic, and they all have their own people who are in charge of that magic and are like the masters of that kind of magic, and they're always constantly competing with one another, and they have their own little, what they call campos within the like city area that are protected by different magic, and no one else can get in them. And outside of that is where Sanchia is from, and it's just like a lawless area where everybody else lives, and there's just constant chaos in those places. So I really enjoyed this setting. I wouldn't say that it's grimdark by any means, but it is darker, but it also has some levity to it. There is some like blood and gore and violence, but there's also this like other undercurrent that makes it a little more light than maybe some other fantasy series that have been coming out lately, because I feel like adult fantasy has been heavy on the grimdark lately. This was a world that I could very easily picture, and while I was reading this, I was actually starting to listen again to the Assassin's Creed video game Black Flag soundtrack. Even though this is not about pirates, that soundtrack I feel like had the same feeling as this, so I felt very immersed in the world. I just really enjoyed a lot of things about this setting, and especially this magic system, which I find so unique. As far as our characters, I really loved Sanchia as a main character. Now, with this book, there are a lot of your like typical fantasy or even story tropes. You have the thief, you have the stalwart and true hero, you have the like mad scientist, but Robert Jackson Bennett takes these tropes and kind of spins them around a bit and changes them and makes them his own, and makes these characters no longer feel like tropes. I always am very kind of cautious these days going into like a thief or an assassin story, because I do tend to like them, but I do feel like they've been popular for a while now that I feel like they start to get kind of tropey and overdone. And these characters just felt real, fully imagined, fully fleshed out. Like I've mentioned before in other reviews of different books, these characters felt like characters that are existing when I'm not reading this story, and I really enjoy when an author is able to do that with its characters. There also is a little magical companion in here, so if you like stories with some magical kind of companion that is kind of a trope that you like, this has that, which I really enjoy. And Sanchia is also a woman who loves other women, and so there is that element as well in here, which I think will be more fleshed out later on, but the developing relationship in here is like just enough, so good, because there's a lot going on. There's like heists and all this stuff, a lot going on, but what you get of that, the seed that is planted there, is really good. I'm looking forward to seeing more of that. Lastly, let me talk about the plot. This was the perfect mix of political intrigue and action, and weaving the lore of the story throughout. None of it felt, you know, info dumpy to me. None of it felt too slow. There's all these elements. You get just enough explained in here and just enough wrapped up, but also enough loose threads open for the rest of the series. So I highly, highly enjoyed this. I read this hunk of a book in 4 days. So I was so into it. Most of those, I think all of those days, almost all of those days being work days, which just doesn't happen. I did receive an early arc of this last year before it came out because it came out in like August of 2018, and I'm very sad for sitting on it for so long, but I also know, I knew that I was probably gonna like this, even though I didn't know a lot going into it. It's one of those books that, like, I got this inkling, but I didn't really know what I was in for, and I was very pleasantly surprised with what I got. So I gave Foundryside 5 out of 5 stars. I also will be doing a spoilery gush on this book, so if you have read this book, go ahead and check that out. I will link that on the screen. So comment down below and let me know what you thought of Foundryside. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see all of you guys soon. Bye.